Ultimate, originally known as Ultimate Frisbee, is a non-contact team sport originally played by players with a flying disc. Points are scored by passing the disc to a teammate in the opposing end zone. Other basic rules are that players must not take steps while holding the disc, and interceptions, incomplete passes, and passes out of bounds are turnovers. Rain, wind, or occasionally other adversities can make for a testing match with rapid turnovers, heightening the pressure of play. From its beginnings in the American counterculture of the late 1960s, Ultimate has resisted empowering any referee with rule enforcement, instead relying on the sportsmanship of players and invoking the spirit of the game to maintain fair play. Players call their own fouls, and dispute a foul only when they genuinely believe it did not occur. Playing without referees is the norm for league play, but has been supplanted in club competition by the use of observers, advisors, to help in disputes, and the professional leagues employ empowered referees. In 2012 there were 5.1 million Ultimate players in the United States. Ultimate is played across the world in pickup games and by recreational, school, club, professional, and national teams at various age levels and with open, women's, and mixed divisions. The most recent World Ultimate Club Championship was in Lecco, Italy in July 2014, where US teams won gold in all three divisions. The 2016 WFDF World Ultimate NAMP Guts Championships was held in London in 2016, where US teams finished first in every division. Invention and early history. Team flying disc games using pythons and cake pan lids were part of Amherst College student culture for decades before plastic discs were available. A similar two-hand touch football-based game was played at Kenyon College in Ohio starting in 1942. From 1965 and 1966, Jared Cass and fellow Amherst students Bob Fane, Richard Jacobson, Robert Marblestone, Steve Ward, Fred Hoxie, Gordon Murray, and others evolved a team frisbee game based on concepts from American football, basketball, and soccer. This game had some of the basics of modern Ultimate, including scoring by passing over a goal line, advancing the disc by passing, no traveling with the disc, and turnovers on interception or incomplete pass. Jared, an instructor and dorm advisor, taught this game to high school student Joel Silver during the summer of 1967 and 1968 at Mount Hermon Prep School's summer camp. Joel Silver, along with fellow students Johnny Hines, Buzzy Hellring, and others, developed Ultimate beginning in 1968 at Columbia High School, Maplewood, New Jersey, USA. The first sanctioned game was played at CHS in 1968 between the Student Council and the student newspaper Star. Beginning the following year, evening games were played in the glow of mercury vapor lights on the school's student-designated parking lot. Initially, players of Ultimate Frisbee used a master disc marketed by Wham-O, based on Fred Morrison's inspired Pluto platter design. Hellring, Silver, and Hines developed the first and second edition of Rules of Ultimate Frisbee. In 1970, CHS defeated Milburn High 43-10 in the first interscholastic Ultimate game. CHS, Milburn, and three other New Jersey high schools made up the first conference of Ultimate teams beginning in 1971. Alumni of that first league took the game to the colleges and universities. Rutgers defeated Princeton 29-27 in 1972 in the first intercollegiate game. This game was played exactly 103 years after the first intercollegiate American football game by the same teams at precisely the same site, which had been paved as a parking lot in the interim. Rutgers won both games by an identical margin. Rutgers also won the first Ultimate Frisbee tournament in 1975, hosted by Yale, with 8 college teams participating. That summer Ultimate was introduced at the Second World Frisbee Championships at the Rose Bowl. This event introduced Ultimate on the west coast of the USA. In 1975, Ultimate was introduced at the Canadian Open Frisbee Championships in Toronto as a showcase event. Ultimate League play in Canada began in Toronto in 1979. The Toronto Ultimate Club is one of Ultimate's oldest leagues. In January 1977, Wham-O introduced the world-class 80-mold 165-gram Frisbee. This disc quickly replaced the relatively light and flimsy Master Frisbee with much improved stability and consistency of throws even in windy conditions. Throws like the flick and hammer were possible with greater control and accuracy with this sturdier disc. The 80 mold was used in Ultimate tournaments even after it was discontinued in 1983. Discraft introduced the UltraStar 175-gram disc in 1981, with an updated mold in 1983. This disc was adopted as the standard for Ultimate during the 80s, with Wham-O holdouts frustrated by the discontinuation of the 80 mold and plastic quality problems with discs made on the replacement 80E mold. Wham-O soon introduced a contending 175-gram disc, the U-Max, that also suffered from quality problems and was never widely popular for Ultimate. In 1991, the UltraStar was specified as the official disc for UPA tournament play and remains in wide use. The popularity of the sport spread quickly, taking hold as a free-spirited alternative to traditional organized sports. In recent years, college Ultimate has attracted a greater number of traditional athletes, raising the level of competition and athleticism and providing a challenge to its laid-back, free-spirited roots. Players' associations. In late December 1979, the first national player-run Ultimate organization was founded in the United States as the Ultimate Players Association. Tom Kennedy was elected its first director. Before the UPA events had been sponsored by the International Frisbee Association, a promotional arm of Wham-O. The UPA organized regional tournaments and has crowned a national champion every year since 1979. Glassboro State College defeated the Santa Barbara Condors 19-18 at the first UPA Nationals in 1979. In 2010, the UPA rebranded itself as USA Ultimate. The first European Championship tournament for national teams was held in 1980 in Paris. Finland won, with England and Sweden finishing second and third. In 1981, the European Flying Disc Federation was formed. In 1984, the World Flying Disc Federation was formed by the EFDF to be the international governing body for disc sports. The first World Championships tournament was held in 1983 in Gothenburg, Sweden. Ultimate Canada is the national governing body in Canada. The first Canadian National Ultimate Championships were held in Ottawa in 1987. The European Ultimate Federation is the governing body for the sport of Ultimate in Europe. Funded in 2009, it is part of the European Flying Disc Federation and of the World Flying Disc Federation. In 2006, Ultimate became a BUCS-accredited sport at Australian and UK universities for both indoor and outdoor open division events. In 2012, Robert Knight captained Australia's national frisbee team to the World Championship final, coining a tactic now popularly referred to as the reverse double-double cheese stack, and inspiring a huge grassroots following. The WFDF was granted full IOC recognition on the 2nd of August 2015. This allows the possibility for the organization to receive IOC funding and become an Olympic game. Rules: a point is scored when one team catches the disc in the opposing team's end zone. A player cannot run with the disc, it may be moved only by passing. The player holding the disc must maintain a pivot point which does not travel throughout the possession. A team can advance the disc to the end zone they are attacking through any number of passes, including one long throw to the end zone, or several shorter passes. If a pass is incomplete, caught out of bounds, intercepted or knocked out of the air by the defense, it is a turnover, and the opposing team immediately gains possession, trying to score in the opposite direction. Ultimate is non-contact, meaning non-incidental physical contact is disallowed. Defenders must make clean interceptions on throws in order to get possession of the disc, and cannot take the disc from an offensive player who has secured a catch. Contact which is not incidental can prompt a foul call from a player, which stops the game. Defending the person who has the disc, or marking, is allowed. That person may count to 10, and if it has not been thrown when the defending player reaches 10, the disc is given to the other team. There can only be one player defending in a 3-meter radius around the person who has the disc. The defender must hold their arms straight, else the person with the disc can call a foul. The game is self-refereed, relying on the honesty of the players to call their own infractions, and to try to play within the rules of the game at all time. It is assumed no player will intentionally violate the rules, and will be honest when discussing calls with opponents. This is called spirit of the game. After a call is made, the players should decide on an outcome, based on what they think happened and how the rules apply to that situation. If a player has been fouled on a catch, they will often gain possession of the disc. If the players agree to disagree on a catching foul, the disc can be given back to the thrower, with play restarting as if the throw didn't occur. Each point begins with the two teams starting in opposite end zones. The teams indicate the readiness by raising a hand, then the team who scored the previous point throws the disc to the other team, in a throw called the pull. When the pull is released, all players are free to leave their end zones and occupy any area on the field. A regulation outdoor game is played 7 versus 7 outdoors, with substitutions allowed between points and for injuries. Games are typically played to a points limit of 13 15/17 or a time limit of 75/90, 100 minutes. A WFDF regulation field is 100 meters by 37 meters, including end zones each 18 meters deep. A USA Ultimate regulation field is 120 yards by 40 yards, with end zones 25 yards deep. MLU games are played on a football field, 120 yards long, 53.3 yards wide, with 20-yard end zones. USA Ultimate vs. WFDF rules. There are two primary sets of rules for competitive Ultimate. In most cases, their applications result in similar outcomes, but there are differences. USA Ultimate rules applies for USA and Canada. Until 2013, the rules used in Japan were based on a translation of these WFDF rules, used anywhere else, including at the World Championships. The differences can be found on the WFDF website. AUDL and MLU rule changes. AUDL and MLU, the semi-professional leagues of USA, Canada, have made multiple rule changes: slightly larger field sizes, playing in 4 quarters, more power to referees, tougher foul penalties, allowing double team but not triple team, stall count as 7 seconds instead of 10, and other changes, where MLU is slightly farther from the regular rules than a UDL handling skills. Catching is done with one hand or both hands on the rim or hands simultaneously on the top and bottom, which is sometimes referred to as a clap catch. Care must always be taken in hand placement when catching with one hand on the disc rim, making sure to catch on the proper side of the disc. According to which way the disc is spinning, one side will tend to spin out of the player's hand, while the other side will spin into the hand, making for a more secure catch. Many players avoid this problem by always catching with both hands when possible. The most popular throws used in a game of Ultimate are backhand, sidearm, a forehand, hammer and scuba, being a deep threat with multiple throwing techniques and the ability to pass the disc before the defense has had a chance to reset is always optimal. Some players use a throw and catch freestyle practice to help improve their ultimate handling skills. Strategy and tactics. Offense teams can employ many different offensive strategies, each with distinct goals. Most basic strategies are an attempt to create open space on the field in which the thrower and receiver can complete a pass. Organized teams assign positions to the players based on their specific strengths. Designated throwers are called handlers and designated receivers are called cutters. The amount of autonomy or overlap between these positions depends on the makeup of the team. Many advanced teams develop variations on the basic offenses to take advantage of the strengths of specific players. Frequently, these offenses are meant to isolate a few key players in one-on-one situations, allowing them more freedom of movement and the ability to make most of the plays, while the others play a supporting role. Vertical stack. One of the most common offensive strategies is the vertical stack. In this strategy, a number of offensive players line up between the disc and the end zone they are attacking. For this position, players in the stack make cuts into the space available, attempting to get open and receive the disc. The stack generally lines up in the middle of the field, thereby opening up two lanes along the sidelines for cuts. Although a captain may occasionally call from the stack to line up closer to one sideline, leaving open just one larger cutting lane on the other side. Variations of the vertical stack include the side stack, where the stack is moved to a sideline and one player is isolated in the open space, and the split stack, where players are split between two stacks, one on either sideline. The side stack is most helpful in an end zone play where your players line up on one side of the end zone and the handler calls an ISO using one of the players' names. This then signals for the rest of the players on your team to clear away from that one person in order for them to receive a pass. In vertical stack offenses, one player usually plays the role of dump, offering a reset option which sets up behind the player with the disc. Horizontal stack. Another popular offensive strategy is the horizontal stack. In the most popular form of this offense, 3 handlers line up across the width of the field with 4 cutters downfield, spaced evenly across the field. This formation encourages cutters to attack any of the space either towards or away from the disc, granting each cutter access to the full width of the field and thereby allowing a degree more creativity than is possible with a vertical stack. If cutters cannot get open, the handlers swing the disc side to side to reset the stall count and in an attempt to get the defense out of position. Usually players will cut towards the disc at an angle and away from the disc straight, creating a diamond or peppermill pattern. Hexagon. Mexican offense aim or recent strategy being adopted by teams around the world is hexagon offense. Players spread out in equilateral triangles, creating a hexagon shape with one player in the middle. They create space for each other dynamically, aiming to keep the disc moving by taking the open pass in any direction. This maximizes options by changing the angles of attack rapidly, hoping to create and exploit holes in the defense, whereas vertical and horizontal aim to open up space for individual yard-gaining throws. Hex aims to generate and maintain flow to lead to scoring opportunities. Hex offense can be played against zonal defense as well as man-to-man, unlike stack offenses. Feature German. A variation on the horizontal stack offense is called a feature, or German. In this offensive strategy, 3 of the cutters line up deeper than usual while the remaining cutter lines up closer to the handlers. This closest cutter is known as the feature, or German. The idea behind this strategy is that it opens up space for the feature to cut, and at the same time it allows handlers to focus all of their attention on only one cutter. This maximizes the ability for give-and-go strategies between the feature and the handlers. It is also an excellent strategy if one cutter is superior to other cutters, or if he is guarded by someone slower than him. While the main focus is on the handlers and the feature, the remaining 3 cutters can be used if the feature cannot get open, if there is an open deep look, or for a continuation throw from the feature itself. Typically, however, these 3 remaining cutters do all they can to get out of the feature's way. Defense force. One of the most basic defensive principles is the force. The defender marking the thrower essentially tries to force them to throw in a particular direction, whilst making it difficult for them to throw in the opposite direction. Downfield defenders make it hard for the receiving players to get free on the open force side. Knowing throws to the break side are less likely to be accurate. The space is divided in this way because it is very hard for the player marking the disc to stop every throw, and very hard for the downfield defenders to cover every space. The force can be decided by the defense before the point or during play. The most common force is a one-way force, either towards the home side or away. Other forces are sideline, middle, straight up, or sidearm, backhand, if one wishes their opponents to throw a particular throw. Man-to-man defense. The simplest defensive strategy is the man-to-man defense, where each defender guards a specific offensive player, called their mark. This defense creates one-to-one matchups all over the field. If each defender shuts out the mark, the team will likely earn or turn over. Often players will mark the same person throughout the game, giving them an opportunity to pick up on their opponent's strengths and weaknesses as they play. Zonal defense. With his zonal defensive strategy, the defenders cover an area rather than a specific person. The area they cover varies depending on the particular zone they're playing and the position of the disc. Zone defense is frequently used in poor weather conditions, as it can pressure the offense into completing more passes, or the thrower into making bigger or harder throws. Zone defense is also effective at neutralizing the deep throw threat from the offense. His zone defense usually has 2 components: a number of players who stay close to the disc and attempt to contain the offense's ability to pass and move forward, and a number of players spaced out further from the disc, ready to bid on overhead or longer throws. Cup. The cup involves 3 players, arranged in a semicircular cup-shaped formation, one in the middle and back, the other 2 on the sides and forward. One of the side players marks the handler with a force, while the other 2 guard the open side. Therefore, the handler will normally have to throw into the cup, allowing the defenders to more easily make blocks. With a cup, usually the center cup blocks the upfield lane to cutters, while the side cup blocks the cross-field swing pass to other handlers. The center cup usually also has the responsibility to call out which of the 2 sides should mark the thrower. usually the defender closest to the sideline of the field. The idea of the cup is to force the offense into making many short passes behind and around the cup wall. The wall, sometimes referred to as the 1-3-3, involves 4 players in the close defense. One player is the marker, also called the rabbit, chaser or puke, because they often have to run quickly between multiple handlers spread out across the field. The other 3 defenders form a horizontal wall or line across the field in front of the handler to stop throws to short-in cuts and prevent forward progress. The players in the second group of his own defense, called mids and deeps, position themselves further out to stop throws that escape the cup and fly upfield. A variation of the 1-3-3 is to have 2 markers. The rabbit marks in the middle third and strike side third of the field. The goal is for the rabbit to trap the thrower and collapse a cup around him. If the rabbit is broken for large horizontal yardage, or if the disc reaches the break side third of the field, the break side defender of the front wall marks the throw. In this variation the force is directed one way. This variation plays to the strength of a superior marking rabbit. Junk clam defense. A junk defense is a defense using elements of both zone and man defenses. The most well-known is the clam or chrome wall. In clam defenses, defenders cover cutting lanes rather than zones of the field or individual players. The clam can be used by several players on a team while the rest are running a man defense. Typically, a few defenders play man on the throwers while the cutter defenders play as flats, taking away in cuts by guarding the respective areas, or as the deep or monster, taking away any deep throws. This defensive strategy is often referred to as bait and switch. In this case, when the 2 players, the defenders, are covering a standing close to each other in the stack, one defender will move over to shade them deep, and the other will move slightly more towards the thrower. When one of the receivers makes a deep cut, the first defender picks them up, and if one makes an in-cut, the second defender covers them. The defenders communicate and switch the marks if the respective charges change the cuts from in to deep, or vice versa. The clam can also be used by the entire team, with different defenders covering in cuts, deep cuts, break side cuts, and dump cuts. The term junk defense is also often used to refer to zone defenses in general, especially by members of the attacking team before they have determined which exact type of zone defense they are facing. Hexagon, flexagon defense. A separate type of defense is flexagon, which incorporates elements of both man-to-man and zonal defense. All defenders are encouraged to communicate, to sandwich their opponents and switch marks wherever appropriate, and to ensure no opposing player is left unmarked. Spirit of the game. Although professional Ultimate uses refereed system in the USA, Club Ultimate is known for its spirit of the game, often abbreviated SOTG. Club Ultimate's self-officiated nature demands a strong spirit of sportsmanship and respect. In Europe and other countries, even top-level play does not have referees. Some World Championship games have had no referees, and disputes were decided by the players themselves. Observers are used in some high-level tournaments outside the USA. Disputes are handled by the players, but advisors step in if no agreement is reached. Some other hybrid forms of refereeing exist. In some settings, the advisors use a stopwatch to track the stall count, and the defending players are not counting the stall. The following description is from the 9th edition of the official rules established by USA Ultimate, since superseded by the 11th edition. Ultimate has traditionally relied upon a spirit of sportsmanship which places the responsibility for fair play on the player. Highly competitive play is encouraged, but never at the expense of the bond of mutual respect between players, adherence to the agreed-upon rules of the game, or the basic joy of play. Protection of these vital elements serves to eliminate adverse conduct from the ultimate field. Such actions as taunting of opposing players, dangerous aggression, intentional fouling, or other win-at-all-costs behavior are contrary to the spirit of the game and must be avoided by all players. Many tournaments give awards for the most spirited team, as voted for by all the teams taking part in the tournament. While spirit of the game is a general attitude, ultimate as an agreed-upon procedure to deal with unclear or disputed situations.